Okay, I'm back. And I'm not going to start over again, but look at that tree over there. Doesn't it look like apocalyptic to you? Like it's falling down, it's falling apart? It kind of is. Anyway, let's continue. So, if I can remember what I was saying, Rick was in the hospital. He wakes up. The virus can't be contained anymore. It's widespread now. People are dying and coming back to life. And the only way they can die is if you shoot them in the brain, right? So when they end up at that laboratory place, the doctor there already knows this. He knows the only way to kill these things is by aiming for the brain. Riddle me this, you all. Why wasn't that news told to the Army, the Navy, the Marines, all the special forces, so that they can start shooting these walkers, as they call them, in the head, so they can try to contain this virus, right? Before it gets really out of hand, where we end up in a situation that so many people are dying and there's only a few left in the world to be able to survive, right? They need to learn how to survive, and they go through horrible things to try to survive. But anyway, that's number one with me. I'm like, I don't understand. Why is this going on and on and on then? So then, of course, they have to leave that place because the doctor there, I guess he's a doctor. I don't know. You all can correct me if you want. He has the building set up to blow up in so many minutes. Why? I have, maybe he doesn't want to live anymore. I don't know, but he has it set up that way. So Rick and the group, they're trying to get out, right? They make it out, thank God. And then they end up just making a camp, I guess, higher up, and so they can't be away from the main town where all these walkers are walking around, and they think they're safe up there, which again doesn't make sense to me, because I'm like, look, if these things are everywhere, why do you think you'll be safe higher up? I mean, eventually they're going to make it up there. And that's another thing, because in the beginning, once again, these walkers were able to walk a little bit faster. When they were chasing Rick, when they were chasing Daryl, they seemed to walk faster. And then when they were at a shopping place, one of them even picked up a brick. And I was like, wait a minute. How did they get so advanced so quickly? I thought that came later on. So I think the writers in the first part, they got way too ahead, and they realized they got way ahead, and they were like, no, we need to slow these walkers down because they're just too advanced. We're going to have that happen later in the show, if it makes it, will happen later, but not right now. But in the first season, you also see a lot of military out there that are dead, and you're like, how did the military not figure out, shoot them in the head? They had grenades, they had what do you call those things, those machines, God, I can't think right now. Those machines that are huge, and they let out like a huge bomb. And why couldn't they kill them? I don't get it. But okay, let's go with it. Let's go with the show, right? Season 2, they make it to the farm. That's where they meet Herschel and Maggie, Beth, her mom, her her siblings, her other siblings or family that are there, that are taking shelter there. Apparently, they haven't gotten run in with any walkers yet, which again is hard for me to believe, but they're way out there in the country, so okay, I'll go with it, right? Let's go with that, because they're way out there in the country, away from everybody else. So I'm like, all right. So they're out there, they have to go because Carl gets shot. I believe that's the first time Carl got shot. And little did I know that was going to be a premonition to Carl getting shot again later on, which I think is a huge mess up on the writer's part. Why did we have Carl shot twice and have him survive that? But yet, then we're going to have him die by a walker bite, where he ends up having to shoot himself. So 3 times, technically, Carl gets shot before he dies. And I don't even think there's an irony to that. I just think it is bad writing. Now look, allegedly and rumored that Chandler's dad was asking for more money on behalf of Chandler, right? Because he started off when he was a little boy. He was already 17 years old by the time they got to season 8 where he dies. I believe it's season 8 where he dies. And the writers decided, no, you know what? We're just going to kill Carl then. He wants more money. We'll show him. We'll kill him. Allegedly, that was the rumor, and that is why they got rid of Carl, which is it was a big damn shame. Carl was needed longer. Carl needed to be the one to take Rick's place. They tried to get Judith to be the one, but it didn't work. It just wouldn't work. And not because she's a female. She was just too young. And then they tried to bring in other, actors and actresses, like, oh, well, let's have this young person try to be kind of like Carl-ish, and it wouldn't work. It would not work. You all, for me, the show was already starting to go downhill, but once Carl died, that really did it for me. Now, I had to finish watching all the seasons, because once I start something, I have to finish it. I have to see it through. But the death of Carl was the death of the show, in my opinion. Okay? Just my opinion alone, and I'm not everybody. So don't come for my throat for saying that. So let's proceed, okay? Where are we on anyway? We're season 3, yeah, at the farm. Maggie was the most annoying female in that season. She had a huge chip on her shoulder. She hated Lori for being pregnant. I hated that part where she throws her, here's your pregnancy test, here's your abortion pills. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And even Lori was like, whoa, honey, and I was like, you get back over here, you bitch. Like, who the hell do you think you are? She just, she was so hateful and hot for Glenn at the same time, okay? She just wanted to screw Glenn, and she did. And sorry for the language, y'all, but I'm just like, she just made me so angry in that season. And not only did she screw Glenn once, there are people outside. They're hugging. I'm like, okay, what are these people doing? They're hugging. Okay, let me hide behind my shade. I was trying to make out, what is that? Is that a statue or are those people? I can't see that far, you all. Anyway, not only did she screw him in season 3, from season 3, or was I in season 2? I don't know where I was. Season 2? Yeah. From season 2 till Glenn dies in season 8, she's screwing him, okay? And it gets to the point where you're like, enough already. Enough. Honestly, it was cute that you two got together, but honestly, I don't even want to see this anymore. I don't give a crap about your relationship. I don't give a crap that you all wanting to screw all the time. You know? And it's very ironic that Maggie, when she threw those abortion pills at Lori, because later in the seasons, Maggie ends up getting pregnant. I say it's ironic because in season 4 they end up at the prison, right? They need shelter. They had to leave the farm. It burns down. It was invaded by walkers, and they ended up finding the prison to take shelter in. There, Lori, by that point, she was already showing. She's getting ready, like to have the baby, to have baby Judith, and Maggie ends up delivering Judith by C-section, and that's how Lori dies. Because there was no doctor there. There was no medical help. Like, there was no medicine or anything, you know? So Lori just take the baby out, you know, and I'll take my chances, you know? And of course she dies right away. And but my point is that Maggie, knowing all of this, after the way she spoke to Lori in season 2, and then delivering the baby, and yet you still decide you're going to get pregnant? Things are not looking any better out in the world. People are still running. People are still hiding. You, for the love of God, almost got eaten in season 4 by Terminus. Y'all correct me if it's season 4, season 5. Like I said, I've seen it so many times, I can't even keep up anymore. But anyway, at Terminus, you know what's out there. And yet you still decide to get pregnant. You know where to get the condoms. You obviously used them the first time with Glenn. And then what? They ran out? Everybody went for condoms in the apocalypse times, and they ran out, and you just decided, oh, we're just going to have to willy-nilly now. Everyone's all out of condoms, Glenn. We're just going to have to do it like that. Oh, well. You know, like, no. I will never, ever, ever understand why she decided to get pregnant. Why she and Glenn decided, let's have a baby. Everybody's dying. Where there's a food shortage. People are eating each other. Hey, let's have a baby. Yeah, that'll be great. Let's create the next generation. When this generation can't even survive. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I know a lot of people think, like, well, they were trying to create the next generation, you know, that's going to live, that'll take over, and yeah, they'll kill all the walkers. Yeah, they still can't figure out that by killing all the walkers, all you have to do is shoot them in the head. Are you kidding me? So these people at Terminus, they decided, you know what, let's just get this building right here. We'll recruit people to come over here for safety, and we'll eat them. Oh yeah, by the way, we do know that we can kill the walkers by shooting them on the head, but shh, let's not tell anybody about that. That just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And believe you me, by that season, by that point, a lot of people knew how to kill these walkers. And you didn't even have to shoot them in the head. I shouldn't have even said that. All you have to do is just kill the brain. No matter what you have on hand, you hit the brain with that, you smash their brain in, and they're dead. But yet we're still going to have Terminus? Just for the hell of it? Well, Moon, people needed to survive. There was no food. You yourself said there was a food shortage, so they had to eat other people. So they couldn't farm. They couldn't plant food. They couldn't just keep searching for other food, birds. Apparently there were other animals. There's always a deer in there. There was always deer showing up, popping up here and there. You know, like, okay, but I get it, you know. There's only so much food that they could have eaten, and, yeah, let's eat people? No. But I get it. I'll go with it. I'll go with it for the sake of the show. I'll go with it even in real life. Like, that maybe could possibly happen in real life. I know that there are other countries where there's cannibalism, right? Like, people die and they'll eat them just to keep them with them forever and ever, you know? And not just other countries, but even here in the United States with Jeffrey Dahmer. Look what he did there, you know? But we're not living in an apocalyptic time, though. And they did it for different reasons. These people did it just to be barbaric, you know? But that's just neither here or there for me at this point. So they went through Terminus. They get out of that situation. They meet Father Gabriel. He was so two-faced for a father. And then they finally end up, I think in season 6, they end up in Alexandria where things are going good. There's a community there. It's gated. But these people are oblivious to the outside world. They really have it in their head that walkers don't exist around our community. They're way out there. And if you wander off all the way out there, then yeah, you're going to see them. But if you're in here, you're not going to see them. So in here, we're going to carry on like it's just normal, everyday living. Yeah, okay. And only a selected few go out there to scavenge, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea really how that worked, but I'm just like, what? Finally, that place falls apart too, because of course, it's already aging. Their tower is aging. It falls over. Walkers come in. And Deanna is shocked. What is this? What are all these things walking around? My God, what are they? You know that big gate that you built in the front to keep these things out? Yeah, that's what they are. Yeah, they still existed. Even in the world that you built in here, thinking you were safe, they existed the entire time. Yeah. You know? And people were lost. I would have liked Jessie to have survived, but I think her death was fitting. You know? She died with Sam. However, her other son, what was his name? Ron. He ended up getting shot. Oh no, he ended up getting stabbed with Michonne's katana because he shot at Rick, but it hit Carl in the eye. That was the second time Carl gets shot, okay? And so he dies. So that whole family just dies. And I'm just kind of disappointed with that because I would have liked Ron to survive a little bit longer and eventually get killed. You know? I just think they got rid of the whole family way too soon. But, you know, that's just my opinion. So then they get invaded by the wolves, right? And the wolves are these people that they're like gypsies. I mean, they just like kill and kill just to have food, and they have these W's on their foreheads and stuff. Well, they all end up dying eventually. They don't survive very long with Rick and the group. They get killed. The wolves, to me, were also a good idea to bring in, because those are the kind of people that you would see in a time like that. Now, they never ate other people. The wolves never captured other people to eat them. They were more, I don't even want to say civilized, but I will. More civilized than the people from Terminus. You know? But they were, I think they were appropriate for the show. And then after the wolves, I think that's when Negan finally comes in. And it was a big turnaround in the show, because up until that point, Rick's group was just winning all the time. Negan comes in, and Rick's group, I called them Nick, Rick's group had to learn how to lose. It's like the writers decided, no, you know what, we need to teach this group a lesson. They're getting too good for their bridges. Enter Negan. I understand that. However, it came to the point where Negan's group didn't know how to lose. And neither did Negan. And it was getting on my last freaking nerve. I was just so impatient, and I was just like, okay, when are we going to teach this group a lesson? When are we going to teach them that they're not always going to win like they think they are? When are we going to show this asshole of Negan that he's not in charge like he thinks he is? Negan acted like he was in charge of the whole entire world. Who am I? I'm Negan. Well, hot damn, I'm Negan. Who are you? Negan. Who are you? Negan. Bullshit. Who are you? Who the hell do you think you are? You know? I'm just like, nah. And I wasn't falling for the whole, like, a lot of people were like, yeah, Negan. Yeah, he's the star of the show now. Negan. No. And let me back up a bit, because this is important to me. Glenn. I didn't even finish with Glenn. Once Shane got killed by Rick, Glenn went from a young pizza delivery guy to suddenly he thought, I'm next in line. Shane is gone. I'm next in command. And he tried his hardest. And believe you me, it was getting on my last nerve as well. It was frustrating me. But this is like later on, like years later, that I'm rewatching all the seasons, mind you. It wasn't at the time. But Glenn kind of like tried to take over Rick. He tried to be the one, like, oh, I'm the moral compass. Like, Rick, that's not who we are. He kept reminding Rick, that's not who we are. Rick was in survival mode. Rick had a lot on his plate. He had his family and all these people that depended on him. He was going to do whatever it takes to keep these people safe. And all Glenn thought about was morality. We can't lose our morality or our humanity. That's not who we are. We have to remain calm and collected and know that we can't just do that. We can't just take. We can't just survive. Glenn, shut up. Honestly, go get your Maggie, go back into the basement and do what you were doing, because that's where you all belonged, honestly. But I will say Maggie got more sense into her in surviving than Glenn. I'm sorry, but she did. But it just really pissed me off that Glenn was trying to be the protagonist of the show, and he had no room in there. He didn't fit the role as a protagonist. He needed to just be another actor in the show, and that's it. The way he started, And don't get me wrong, I like Glenn. I cried when he died. It was horrible the way he died. It was horrific. It was so gory. It was horrible. But even Abraham, who had the training to be in command, he knew when to step back and let Rick be in charge. Abraham tried to give some rules, but all Rick had to be like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to do this over here. And, and Abraham's like, yeah, you're right. He would back off. He wasn't there like, well, wait a minute, Rick. I know. I was in the military, but you don't know. Like, Rick, that's not who we are, No. Because Abraham knew what was up. He'd already been out there as well, and he was in survival mode 24/7 like Rick and the group. Because the group knew what was up. And when I mean the group, I mean Rick's tight group, not the outside people. And I felt like with Glenn, he put a lot of people at risk by that, with having that frame of thinking. Like they always say, the scared people are the ones that are the worst to be around, because those will get you killed. Well, in this case, I felt like Glenn, always thinking about morals and humanity, he was going to get people killed. In fact, I think that's how he got himself killed. Because when you have the lineup and Maggie's there on the verge of losing her baby, but she didn't lose it, okay? She's on the verge of losing the baby. She's having some complications. Glenn immediately wanted to run to Maggie. Glenn immediately thought, I can be Rick in this moment and try to rescue the group by speaking up and speaking out. And the group was very fortunate that Negan chose to kill Abraham and Glenn, and not anybody else of the group that would not have deserved that killing. Now, I'm not saying Glenn deserved it, but he kind of chose himself right there by thinking he had a moment. Had Glenn not spoken up, I don't think that would have happened. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, it wasn't his fault, it was Daryl's fault because Daryl hit Negan, and Negan got pissed off, so he had to choose one more. But why did he choose Glenn? Because Glenn was still thinking about humanity. He probably knew that, you know what, Glenn's not going to work for me. He's going to keep thinking about wanting to save the others. He's going to be plotting. He's going to, I can break down these other people. But with Glenn, he's just going to drag everybody else down. I'm going to end up killing more people that are useful to me. Because remember, Negan always said, people are a resource. So they can work for him. And I think Negan felt, and this is my opinion, okay? I think Negan felt that with Glenn around, he was always going to try to, like, that's okay. He was going to try to comfort the group. That's okay. You know, this is only temporary. You know, we'll get through this. This is who we are. You know, that's not who we are. We're not Negan. We're not them. This is who we are, and it'll be okay. Let's just do what they say, and in the meantime, let's just think of how we can get out of this, how we can escape, and maybe I can talk to Negan and talk some sense into him and bring him back to our morals, to humanity again. Like, he was just gonna drag the group. No, Negan wanted the group in fear of him. And that's exactly what he accomplished by killing Abraham and Glenn. Glenn for being the weakest link. Abraham for being the strongest of the two. He sensed already that Abraham, hey, this guy's been through some shit already. He's military. He's going to be problems for me. He ain't going to work for me. So I got to get rid of him. But Glenn was the weakest of them all. Now, did I want that to happen? No. I was really sad. To this day, I cannot forgive Negan for killing Abraham and Glenn. A lot of people could care less. A lot of people don't even give a crap that Abraham died. They only care about Glenn dying. I cared about both. And that's what really made me hate Negan. And it made me hate even more that Negan was getting this fan-based, you know, and people were just praising Negan. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He almost chopped Carl's arm off. Well, not him himself. He was going to have Rick do it. But are you kidding me? No. But again, I'm always going to go back to this. Surely Negan, as the commander of his sanctuary, knew that walkers can be killed by smashing their heads. Now, why didn't he raise an army to do that rather than having an army of... oh, there goes a cop with the lights on back there. Hey, that's the second time I see this Winnebago that's orange and white. Okay, anyhow. His sanctuary, he was commander of the sanctuary, and rather than treating them like slaves, why didn't he raise up an army to help kill these walkers? Why did he automatically think, oh no, I want slaves. I want people to work for me. I want them to go out and scavenge for me. I want them to grow food for me. I want them to give me massages. I want the good-looking ladies to, keep me entertained. And my men. You know, he just really... He was not a good person. And I don't know how in the world people thought Negan is a good person. I'm looking at this right here. I thought it was a bump or something. Anyhow, on my dashboard. You know, after Negan, then came the Whispers. Oh boy, the Whispers. Listen, I love Samantha Morton. She was Alpha. I am Alpha. I only want one thing from you, my daughter. I love that part. I don't know. I just love that part. Now, was I an Alpha fan? No, she got on my damn nerves too. All these people found a way to get on my nerves. They're characters, not the actors or actresses. They're characters, okay? Beta, oh, I was so glad when he died, you all. I didn't hear any Beta fans. I'm really shocked because Beta was a strong man. And I'm really shocked that people didn't gravitate like, oh, yeah, Beta. No. They were still with, I am Negan. You know, like Negan was a peon compared to Beta. So that part, I don't understand. But, you know, then Lydia comes in the picture, and that's where I said that, you know, the writers then try to bring in other people to kind of like take Carl's place, or maybe not take Carl's place, but be like a Carl, because I do feel, no, I'm gonna go back to that. I do feel that they wanted Lydia to take Carl's place because she ends up building a relationship with Negan. That was Carl's place. Carl was supposed to survive and have that relationship with Negan, where they became close, and they actually became friends and started fighting together. But instead, they killed off Carl, and here comes Lydia. Listen, to me, Lydia was a victim, but she was never strong. She always remained a victim. And I know she went through a lot with her mother. Her mother was way worse than mine. But I don't think Lydia should have been any main character either. I think she should have just kind of stayed behind the scenes, but they try to build Lydia up so much. For me, it didn't work. It never worked. For me. You know? As far as Rosita never really got her moment to shine until the end, where she decided she wanted to just, you know what, kill me. That's it. Like, just kill me off on the show. That would be a perfect ending for me. And so they did. You know, but they never gave her any good moments. She was always just Abraham's girlfriend that slept with Abraham. And that didn't get boring, by the way, because they didn't show him screwing in every episode like they did with Glenn and Maggie. And now Rosita never got pregnant. Go figure, you know? Rosita wasn't like, oh, Abraham, I would like to have a baby since Glenn and Maggie are having a baby. Why can't we have a baby, you know? And yes, I know that Abraham ended up leaving Rosita for Sasha. And they talked about wanting to have a child, but they didn't go through with it because they knew already. They knew this is a horrible place to be in. Why would we, you know? We're not dumb. But, you know, Rosita, I feel, never got her big moment to shine up until the end. Tara was just accident prone from the beginning. You know, she fell. How many times did she fall? She fell when Glenn and her ran into Abraham and Rosita and Eugene. She hits her knee and she's like, I'm fine. Everything to her is, I'm fine. You know, and it's like, what the hell? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Why do you keep falling? No, I take it back. That wasn't the first time she fell. She also fell with her sister and her little girl. I think the little girl's name was Megan. She fell with them. They were trying to escape with the governor. And they were walking down this road. And then she falls. And she's like, I'm fine. And the second time was when she met Rosita, Abraham, and Eugene. And then when she leaves with Glenn, once again, she falls in some rocks. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? What is with you when can you not use your legs correctly? Like, why do you keep falling with are you Ariel? Like, what the hell? Get it together, woman. Jeez. I shouldn't talk because I broke my leg. But anyway, at one time. And then I almost did again this past Saturday. I lost my balance. There was a step that I didn't see, and I was like, oh shit, and I almost fell, and I was like, damn, I almost broke my leg again. I don't want to do that again. But, anyhow, yeah, and then she gets hit on the head or something when they're at the warehouse with Eugene. And what else? Oh, she's just always getting hit in the head or falling, and I'm like, enough. And then when she gets to Oceanside, once again, another head injury. And I'm like, okay, can we just like be done with it? Ironically, Tara gets beheaded, and I think that was fitting because I'm like, yeah, she belongs on that pole, all right. Let's just end her like that, because it was just getting so bad already with all her accidents that it was just like, yeah, that's perfect right there. She incidentally was supposed to come down at the time that we met Chandler. He came down a couple of years back to Comic-Con, and what's her name? Alana? Yeah, Alana. She was supposed to come, and she didn't. And I was really disappointed because I really wanted to meet her, I really wanted to ask her, like, what was up with Tara always falling? But she didn't come. And then I did leave a comment on her Instagram. I was like, hey, we missed you at the South Texas Comic-Con. And she didn't respond. So maybe she just didn't want to come down here. She probably saw it on the map, but she's like, it's where? And there are no mountains. It's flat and hot. And it's near the border. No, I think I'm feeling sick that day. Yeah, let's just cancel. Okay. But thank goodness Chandler came, and so did, Stephen Ogg. He came. They sucked it up. But, yeah, that was fitting. Tara, she was always on the background too, She had her lines and everything, but she was in the back. That's where I think Glenn would have fit more, in the back. I'm just saying, I was disappointed when Andrea died. She was in Silent Hill. But I was kind of disappointed when she died. I was like, wow, they're really going to kill her off already, The governor killed her. I know a lot of people didn't like her. Yeah, she did get kind of cocky there every now and then. But hey, so did everybody else. So I don't see what the difference was. But I liked Andrea. I wish she would have stuck around more. And who else? It was really sad when Herschel died. But of the main group, I'm trying to think of who else didn't really get their moments either. Eugene definitely came through. They finally lifted up Eugene a lot when he finally got brave, and they got to oh my god, what was it called? Now I lost my train of thought. What was it called? I can't think right now, you all. They finally got to their last place. And, because he was after some girl that he was talking to over the radio waves and all. Oh my god, I can't think of it. How many times have you seen this moon and now you can't think of that one? You know why? Because it sucked. Those episodes sucked. And I haven't really kept up very well. To be honest, the last time I saw those episodes was a couple of years back, watching the replays of the season. And as soon as I got to that season, I'm out. In fact, as soon as I got to the season of The Whisperers, I already checked out. I was just like, I'm not going to watch it anymore. I'll watch something else. Because it just didn't get my attention. I already knew how it ended and everything. I just didn't want to, like, see it through anymore. I was just like, I already saw it through once. I didn't like the way it ended. I didn't like the way they changed everything. I'm done. But Eugene, they brought him up. We already said Rosita dies at the end. Father Gabriel is still around. Oh, yeah, my car turned off probably because it was heating up. And it'll do that. It does that, which is all right. That's okay. It's still nice and cool, and my son's almost out. Is it still on? Yeah. I don't really want to put the window down because the cold air is going to get out, but I'm going to have to, right? I'm going to put it down like that much. And a little bit over here, too. There. So, I'm like, it's all right in here. It's not hot. Yeah, my legs are sticking to the seat. Okay, we know Abraham didn't survive. They didn't survive. Then Eugene. Maggie survives, of course. She has a baby Herschel. Daryl survives. Carol survives. And a couple of other people that, like the King Ezekiel and Jerry, Lydia. Ironically, she survived. I think it would have been better for Lydia if she had died at some point. I think she would have been more memorable. Because having her survive the entire thing, it was like, it just kind of disappointed. Then, of course, they went off to do the spin-offs, which I know a lot of people were excited about it, including myself. But then once you started watching the spin-offs, for me, it was a really big letdown. Not because none of the main people were there anymore, but because, like with Daryl, The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, he wasn't able to carry himself very well. It was like there couldn't be a Daryl without everybody else, if you know what I mean. Like, he needed the other characters in order for Daryl to stick out. And it wasn't happening with Daryl by himself. And then he was in Paris. I guess he thought, oh, we'll make it exciting, you know. Let me move this over because there's somebody looking at me through the window. Let's make it exciting. Let's make it in Paris. People will really watch. And he met that nun and the little boy, and I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me, you know? And I tried to see it through, and I just couldn't. And then I think that's when they decided, you know, let's bring Carol in because this isn't working, you know. Melissa, who plays Carol, didn't want to go to Paris, but I guess they convinced her somehow, like, hey, come on, we really need you, for the show. And she went, And it picked up somewhat for me, but then it went flat again. It's like Daryl and Carol ran their course already. Oh. People are starting to come out. Okay, well, here comes my son. Thank you for being with me.